We are watching Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio landing in Miami. He's serving 22 years in federal prison before he was pardoned by President Donald J. Trump. Thank you to NBC News for that footage, courtesy to them. That is former Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio landing in Miami after serving, I believe, 2 years in prison, 2 years of a 22-year sentence before he was pardoned by President Donald J. Trump. The next clip I'm going to go ahead and show you is a gentleman that is in the import-export business. And I always say this, I always talk about this on this channel. There are two things that I believe that the average voter doesn't understand. One, how government actually works, and two, economics. And if you want to add three, business. And this gentleman breaks things down on a, just as far as on a business level, and he's trying to explain tariffs to a Trump supporter, and the Trump supporter is trying to kind of turn it political. He's not being disrespectful or anything, but that's how their brains are programmed, Democrats or Republicans. It usually turns into something political, but this guy breaks it down eloquently. Wonderful clip. Roll the tape.
Who pays the tariffs?
The Chinese government pays the tariff.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
I'm an importer and exporter for 20 years. When a product comes into the U.S., there's something called a tariff sheet.
Okay.
I, as the buyer of that product, follow U.S. law and pay the tariff. I'm an American citizen, an American taxpayer. I pay that tariff to the U.S. government, and that increase in the cost, I then sell to you for a higher price because I've got to cover that tariff.
Then what about?
There is
then
no.
What do you say? Our tariffs are higher when they go overseas as opposed to theirs coming here.
Tariffs are never a zero-sum game. Tariffs are a tool. For example, you might say you want to sell us your beans.
Yeah.
We are going to give you a low tariff if you buy our corn. But the cost of the tariff is ultimately always borne by the consumer.
Don't you think at the end of the day there may be more competition within the market of the U.S. government?
You're confusing the question. This is not a question of competition. The point we're discussing is who bears the cost of the tariff.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you if it's good policy for the U.S. government to tax beans and for the Chinese government to tariff corn. But what I can absolutely assure you is that a product that comes into the U.S. is paid for by a U.S. company, and the increased cost of that is borne by all of us. I am an importer and exporter. I do it for a living.
Okay. Then what's the alternative if at one point in our country's history was tariffs that paid for our economy?
Tariffs don't pay for your economy.
But they did. We didn't have income taxes before.
That was before we had municipal infrastructure.
Correct. My understanding is that the tariff is lopsided to benefit other countries as opposed to ours. The suggestion is just to bring it up to make it equal.
That's why you have free trade agreements.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that even within the free trade agreement there are not tariffs. If there's one thing you should take away from this extended conversation is you are always paying the tariff.
You know what? I'm not educated in that. Fair enough.
It
was a pleasure.
Good.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.